I am your host, Anya Randall Nebel, and this is a special, very, very special evening that we have planned for you tonight. Tonight is the Juneteenth Solidarity Concert and Discussion Panel. We've got some great things, great discussions. We're going to talk real talk about race in America as we know it. Things are bubbling up. I've picked some of the best people. You all are the best people out there, but I've picked some of the people that are close to me that we've had these in-depth conversations over the years, some from the theater world, some from my job, some from that have just become family to me that are close to me that we can have these conversations. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I introduce to you my panelist. First, we have R&B star of DC and all-around son of mine, Mr. Jerome Williams. Hi, baby.
How you doing?
I am good. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we have Miss Rikki Howie Lacewell. My sister in arms. We've been best friends for years. We look alike. She's gray. I'm gray. I'm trying to get her to stay with it, but she is an activist. She is my inspiration. She's my activist. She's definitely doing her own movement about what theater is in the DC area. Hashtag we see you. And we're going to be talking about many of those things right now as well this evening in the 2 hours that we have. Next up, my homeboy from my job. I've known this man for 2.5 years, but he's become a big brother and a mentor and an inspiration at my job at the fruit stand. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time making his Latido debut, Mr. Sean Briggs. Briggs.
Greetings and salutations. Happy to be here. Anything from my sister Anya, spiritual advisor, artistic creator, the sun to my moon. Love you, sis.
I paid him to say all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, then we got a couple, the money's just rolling out. Speaking of pay, before we get it further, any donations that you will all do on the link that we will give you later on will go towards Black Lives Matter, as well as paying for our artists that are joining us today for taking their time. Now, we're talking old school, the Purple Prince himself, my oldest best friend, my New York homie, Mr. Davyd H. Suber Jr.
Hey, girl, what's up?
What's up, baby?
We go
What's up?
way back from when we were in high school.
Way back, almost 40 years. That means you're still older than me.
Oh, yes, I am. And proud to have reached that age, the way things are going these days.
You made it out. You made it out with the skin.
Yes.
With the skin.
Yeah.
And it was very important to me that I invited some youth of this movement. Even though Jarreau is youth as well, I invited one of my sisters. She's a talented costume designer, actress. She is rocking the boing, boing, boing today. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Harrow. From New York, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, sis.
Hi.
Hi. I love you, girl. So I got some New York in the house. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes. Raise the roof. Thank you, Danny, for coming here. I really appreciate it. I love you so much. And last but not least, on our Latido board, but one of our many, what do you call them? Staff members, but he's really not staff members. He's the youngest and the newest to our team. He's our musical director, and he is a creative talent. I got the pleasure to work with him last year at, what was it? Fringe. There's no Fringe this year. So I got to work with him on Soul Redeemer, and he showed up and he showed out. Ladies and gentlemen, my little soul brother, Mr. Josh Cleveland. Hello, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing
great.
How are you?
So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we're going to take a moment of silence and prayer as we all collect our thoughts and get together. So if you'd like to join us, even though you may not pray to a higher God, if you pray within spiritually, we invite you for that prayer. So Sean, take it away.
Thank you, Anya. I first, let me just say, for me, prayer is not always about your religious choices. It's really about your spirituality and how you hold yourself together in trying times. So that's how I pray.
Okay. Do the thing.
So that being said, let's bow our heads real quick. Dear Lord, we come together in the spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood, looking to have a dialogue that creates change. Let these words that we say come from our hearts and speak true. Let us know that the liberation of a people is really just the rejoining of humanity's bonds. Let us know that we are here for a greater reason, that we are the creators and creators of everything that can counter all the destruction that is around us. Empower our words, our hearts, and our arts to do the work that must be done. We are the griots, and we know that we are the true keepers of social justice and what we produce. So, Lord, I ask you to protect everyone here. Let us stay safe. Get us back on track, Lord, and empower us to be the change that we want to see in the world.
Thank you so much, Sean. That was amazing. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so blessed to have so many talented people in my life, and they're an inspiration. I saw this young man on YouTube. He kind of slipped this under the radar. I had no idea. And I said that it had to be on this show because it speaks to one of the many that have lost their lives to senseless violence. So without further ado, Josh, tell us about your piece, sir.
And a couple weeks ago, this song just kind of knocked on my door, and it's dedicated to the memory of, as Anya said, one of the far, far, far too many that we've lost, Tamir Rice. With the song, wanted to just capture the sense of loss that we keep having to feel with all of these news cycles. It's obviously always a personal loss, but it's also a collective loss. And I wanted to try to speak to that in addition to the injustice of the way his life ended. So, but maybe even more important than that, I kind of just wanted to underscore his humanity, his story. He was a brother, he was a son, he was a student, he was a friend. He liked to play basketball at the nearby community center. He liked to tell jokes. So his name was Tamir, and that's the name of this song. So here it is. Gray November day in a Cleveland neighborhood, a 12-year-old was playing just like any child would. He'd brought a toy, but that toy looked like a gun. He was a kid who liked to joke around. He was a brother and a son, and his name was Tamir. His name was Tamir. His name was Tamir, and he's gone. On an autumn day, in a West Side park he knew, he sat down at a table, wondering what else he should do. When a squad car pulled up close with two officers in tow. They saw a black man with a gun. They saw but didn't know that his name was Tamir. His name was Tamir. His name was Tamir. And he's gone. The officers jumped out. The tragic scene was set. They thought Tamir was 20. They thought he posed a threat. They fought for just 2 seconds before one drew and fired his gun on a kid whose future lay on a brother, on a son. His name was to me. His name was to me. His name was to me. And he's gone. How much did we lose on a cold November day? The trust that binds our fates together, the space for kids to play. No, Tamir was not the first, and he hasn't been the last. The carnage will continue till we can reckon with the past. Still, his name was to me. His name was to me. His name was to me. And he's gone. So listen.
Lots of tissues up in this place. So, wow. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that speaks to the hundreds. Thank you, Josh. That speaks to the hundreds, ladies and gentlemen, that are dying in the streets every day at the violence at the hands of the police. Just minding your business, and they're no longer with us. And that's what we're going to talk about. But before that, Latido is the first musical theater and spoken word cabaret series in the DC area. Because of COVID-19, we've had to cancel our entire, the rest of our season, but we were blessed to have our features that are willing to still keep up the fight and keep it going with us for the rest of the year by sharing their gifts. One of those many gifts is the many, many, many poets that I've had the pleasure of meeting. And tonight we have someone here who is one of the family members to Latido. His name is Christopher Thomas. Christopher, are you here? I will continue to introduce him, but Christopher Thomas is the executive director of Project Beacon of Hope. He's also an authorized steward of children facilitator. He is a spoken word artist, speaker, and a teaching artist. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, sharing one of his many poems, Mr. Christopher Thomas.
Hi, how are you?
I am fine, my love. How are you? Thank you
I am
so much
doing
for doing
good.
this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having this.
Of course.
It means everything.
It means everything to us as well, sir. Thank you. Bring it on home for us. What are we going to do?
Okay, I don't know what's going on here, but here I am now.
Hi, there you are. I see you there. Handsome.
How
Love
are
it.
you?
I'm
I had
good.
no idea what was going on, but here I am. It's fixed now. All right. Hello, everyone.
So before you start your poet, tell us what you're hosting this evening. Let the world know what you're doing, because you're going to have to cut out soon. So I want you to have some support on the back end for anybody that's watching.
I have to host my open mic check, and that's on IG Live. And if you want to attend, my IG is I_am_C Thomas. I mean, I_am_C Thomas, excuse me. And tonight's feature is SGL poet, same gender loving poet, Beat the Roots. And what better way to close out with a Black same gender loving man for Juneteenth? What better way to do it, right?
What better way to start us off? I appreciate you.
Absolutely. So that's
how are you feeling? You know what? Since you don't get a chance to be with us with the panel, how are you feeling during this COVID-19?
You know, during this COVID-19, I'm feeling good, to be honest with you now. It was a lot of numbing moments. It was a lot of self-growth moments, a lot of reflection moments. I didn't for the first couple of weeks or the week, I did let it actually take me under a little bit. But after that, I had to climb out of it, and I wanted to get the lesson out of it. I started to look for the silver lining versus the dark side of it. So I'm happy to report that mental status and all other elements are actually doing good. But then this time I took a step back and I started building my nonprofit that I'm actually now incorporated with the state of Virginia. So that's exciting. Yes, Project Beacon of Hope, which is dedicated to helping families and children affected by abuse in the Alexandria area, actually in the Virginia area, but mainly Alexandria, and working on my LLC for C. Thomas Works, and, you know, just being the fabulous Black queer man that I was put on this earth to be.
I love it. I love it. And that's the message that we're going to have today, that with all that's going on, there is some hope somewhere with all of us coming together to do the work and keep doing the work and educating people. So you just educated me on what you're doing, and I really, you know, I admire that. And I'm going to give you a call because I got something for you. I'm going to email you because I got something that came to my desk while I was sitting here. So it's right up your alley, helping children and adoptions and stuff. And I think you're the right person for it. So I will email you that information. See, that's how we do, ladies and gentlemen. We help our brothers and sisters. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, some words from Mr. Christopher Thomas.
As a kid, when I misbehaved, my mother told stories of monsters who lived in the dark or under my bed to scare me. She said sometimes these mythical creatures crept from out of the closet to frighten naughty children into good behavior. Scared to death, the measures I took trying not to disturb the dark included leaving the lights on to ensure a good night's sleep. My feet tucked into bed securely. My head buried under cover while laying in fetal position, I convinced myself that following these procedures would prevent the monsters from finding me. But what if I told you I still believed in monsters? The very thought makes me a punk, a coward, a scared little child that jumps at any shadow or any bump in the night. I nearly soil my pants when I feel someone walk up on me. I exercise my right to fare well, and they like it. Monsters in uniform that prey on my panic-induced adrenaline rush. Creatures of the night dressed in blue, ready to Miranda rights my soul. Looking at me with flashlights, making me a suspect. Hearing the feedback from dispatch, making me a match. A routine traffic stop or final destination, I know this monster well. Hand me your license and registration. Place your hands on the steering wheel. Step from out of your car. Hand on holster with a drawn revolver. Being pulled over by the police is a scary story told too often. They like to yell boo with their gun. Mommy, I don't want to go outside today. Hands over eyes trying to make the monsters go away. Officer, I promise you I didn't mean to misbehave. I didn't mean to drive while black today. I didn't mean for my skin to be the darkness that attracts you, but surely you wouldn't be here if you saw the light. If my skin were white. But still, my hands and feet are tucked into handcuffs securely. Might as well walk in the woods, we're going home at night. There are creatures with tasers for tongue who stalks the street. Their howling sound like freeze, put your hands up over your head. In every encounter, they let me know they're here to serve and protect white privilege. A full moon and lichens, they like to travel in packs. And they be liking the way I resist arrest when I'm laying face down on the ground. They be liking the way I talk back when I say I can't breathe. They be liking the extra beat in my heart when I hear them growling and kicking and beating my Africa under rainbows. They be liking when I'm not moving. Dark meat, their easiest prey. The police have been haunting my people for years, turning Black lives into ghost stories to keep my people from misbehaving. They know their hate crimes will go televised and be labeled a closed case because for a police officer, a conviction is a fairy tale. A horror story with a litany of never-ending sequels, and I, C. Thomas, could be labeled the next case. So Mom, good job. You've done it. I'm prepared to fight. That's that piece.
Wow.
Wow.
Snaps.
My brother. My brother. I'm not gonna get through this. Whew, I'm not gonna get through this. This is life, ladies and gentlemen. This is what it's about. How do you feel after you said those words, my friend?
You know, I wrote that poem when I was 34 years old, and I'm now 39. So that poem is 5 years old. And the fact that it's still relevant and it hits just as hard, if not harder, and it's fresh, if not even fresher. It's sometimes hard to get through that poem. It really is, because as a Black man and knowing that my skin is a constant target and a reason, and reason enough for a racist person to want to expire my life, it both makes me scared and it also makes me hopeful, because if you hate me that much, that means you are frightened of me. You know I hold a power that you wish you had. You know my blood, if it spills on the soil, is going to grow more Black unity, is going to grow more Black people.
Talk about it.
We are everlasting fertilizer. We may be that Black people, the color Black, period, may be the absence of color, but it's the color that also gives life to every other color, every hue, and every variation, and every depth. So why not fear us? We gave you what you have. And I heard this on a TV show, and I cannot remember who it was, so I cannot remember their name, but she said, before you were anything else, you were African. And that also goes for the white people, because you were African, you have African blood in you. So how does it feel knowing that you have my great-great-grandmother constantly talking to your DNA?
All right. I hear you, brother. Thank you so much. Please tell the audience again about who you are, what you're doing, so we can follow you and be a fan forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, and they and them, my name is C. Thomas. I am on Instagram at I_am_C. Thomas. I'm on Facebook at I am C. Thomas. I am a local spoken word artist, mentor. I am the executive director of Project Beacon of Hope. I am also a teaching artist, and I am a very unapologetic Black gay man, randomly Black gay man. And I love you all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I look forward to more of the show that I'm able to see.
Yes, I appreciate you. Love you. Thank you so much.
Too.
Welcome to the family. Thank you.
Thank you,
Ladies and gentlemen, C. Thomas out here doing the thing. Thank you so much again. So right now I'm going to someone that I love is going to tell you what this day is about. And she's going to give her interpretation. I want her to keep it real for me and for you guys what this is, because she's been doing a lot of hard work out in these streets, ladies and gentlemen. She's definitely my inspiration. She's the best, my best friend, my girl, my love. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Rikki Howie Lacewell.
I was like, you don't know my name?
I don't know, girl. I'm have a breakdown up in here in these streets. Hi, sweetie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Great. Great. Let's
So
do the thing. Tell the real deal about Juneteenth. And you know, it's a reflection. It's not a celebration. Let's be clear. It's not a party. It's a reflection of our history. Go, girl.
Anyone can look on Google or wherever and just do a search about what they are telling you. And by they, not African Americans, what they are telling you that Juneteenth is about. And they're all valid points. They're all real things that are out there. It is the 4th of July, as some of us have said, for African Americans celebrating the end of slavery, though that started in 1863 when we were actually freed. It took several years for the pony, the horse, the cart, the walking, the swimming, whatever they had to do to get it all the way down to Texas to free the last few slaves and let them know that their freedom, and by freedom, freedom of no longer being called property. So that is the freedom that we are celebrating, which, yes, it is a reflection of the struggle and that freedom, but that freedom also allowed them to put us in socio and economic slavery, which we have still been fighting with for years. So it's not as I had a conversation earlier with someone, this is not for me a happy Juneteenth, as in happy Valentine's Day, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. This is not that.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
This is a day of reflection and of learning. People are like, well, what can I do? I need you to understand that yet we were free from being called poverty. We still were not considered human. We still were not valued, and we're still not valued today. And that's not a blanket statement saying everyone thinks that, but I know I wake up every morning and the one thing I can't change is being unapologetically Black, and I don't want to. But also, when it comes to Juneteenth, I look at it as a day of reflection where we can realize what happened on that day, but I need us to go a step further. Look at that second paragraph within the Emancipation Proclamation, where it completely says we are invalid. We have no validity within the game. We're just no longer property. But in order for Black people to actually move and do better and get better, they had to work. And work for who? Socioeconomic people who still enslaved us. So that's just my take. Not everyone enjoys that take on it. I still acknowledge it. But like I told someone, please don't send me a happy Juneteenth statement. I'm not 100% happy about it. I'm respectful about it, which is completely different than happy Valentine's Day, happy Juneteenth. That's it. And thank you, Sissy, for throwing that in my lap. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I know. I know. Because ladies and gentlemen, I gotta start my video. Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is real talk, y'all. And the thing is that everyone right now is on high alert. Everyone right now is on high emotions, and everyone right now is uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, you should be uncomfortable. This is not a comfortable conversation. Several of us on this call have been having these same conversations. I just saw that my mom popped up. That woman's been having that same conversation for all of her life. But we'll get to her later.
Thank you, Shelley.
She's had this same conversation. And if anybody knows anything about Black families, especially for, the youth, we always say, do it bigger, better, faster, more than the next counterpart. That's just the way it is. And how as stressful as it can be, it's what it has to be in order for us to achieve. And this woman next to me has done that. And I've seen her go through a lot of stuff in her life, and she's still struggling. And so just because we're having a great time and we're kikiing and whatnot doesn't mean that the struggle's not real, because it is. So you guys are getting ready to hear some real talk. Ladies and gentlemen, bring back my panelist. Hey, yes.
You gotta let me back in.
All right. Well, while y'all figuring that out.
Right. Right. Of course.
It says
take a sip because you needed it. We're not stopping. So while we're bringing it up, I'm not gonna hold anybody. Let's do some icebreaker questions. So, and to lighten the mood a little bit, but we're gonna do some real talk. Danny, you're in New York City.
I am.
How is it, baby? How is your COVID doing? What have you been doing to mentally prepare for today, for tomorrow, forever?
Sleep is a blessing. Let me just say, I love sleep. Sleep is a wonderful thing where in my day when things are getting real hard, if I just take a nap real quick, it's like, boom, I mentally fixed it a little bit. So I sleep on it, as they say. I paint on it. I design. I love designing when nothing else seems right. This COVID, I've decided to try using different mediums. So I've been painting with acrylics, with watercolor, I've been sketching with pencils, just experimenting in all the different media types and trying to see how I can depict movement within my clothing with these things, because it's one of those things, you know, where in a world where you have no control, you like to have some control over something. So
it sounds like fluidity. You're working on being fluid. And
fluidity,
that seems it seems like the theme.
Well, my clothing, anytime I make anything, I love movement. I love to see when that person moves. It makes you want to hold your breath and be like, keep walking. Yes.
Right.
So I love, to be able to depict that movement in picture is what I've been working on.
Wonderful. Thank you, sis. Sean Briggs.
Yes, ma'am.
You and I have been sitting home for about 4 months, sir.
Right.
We've been doing the check-in together. We've been talking real talk. How are you feeling today? I know your spirit was broken, but we'll get to that in a minute. How have you been surviving or working within the COVID-19 era?
A lot of it for me has just been looking after my health. So I try to walk early in the morning, 2 or 3 miles every other morning. I try to walk. I write more. I sit down. I read more. I'm getting deeper into the music that I love, watching some great documentaries just about our people. I watched a great one about Robert Johnson the other day. The idea is I'm leaning into things that I love and I feel feed me. So I think that's what's been doing it for me. The reality of it is all the stuff going on while we're in the middle of this pandemic, and just the fact that the madness still takes hold.
Right.
That even in the worst time for us as a nation, people are dying. You're reminded that time has marched on, but time has not changed things. And it kind of knocked me down for a minute. It was one of those things where, you don't know what to say or what to do. I'm always of two minds. I'm from the Bronx. So I was not allowed to turn the other cheek in my youth. But I remember when I was very young, my grandfather, who was a Korean War vet, when people think I'm big, I'm not big compared to the size of this man. But his whole thing was he believed in kindness. And he said, if you can find any other way to respond to something besides fighting, he's like, you won. But he came up I could not grasp what he was saying to me as a child until I got older and was kind of like, he'd been lost in the past. He would tell me things like, oh, I remember joining the Army at 16 because his parents, who had adopted him and his three brothers, could not afford to feed them, but they both had 2 jobs. I was like, well, what were they paying them? Like, so he left home. He was the oldest. He left home. Brother followed suit, ended up in a war, came out. But he was always very strong. He had a way of standing his ground and garnering people's respect. But I remember at the same time, this is also a man who owned a gun because he's like, they always come for you at night. And I was kind of like, what? He was like,
real talk.
They come for you at night. He was like, and they won't come for you man to man. He's like, they always come in groups. So that had become his habit was, okay, everybody go to bed, blah, blah, blah. And, check his gun. He came from the Midwest. And, you know, it was always that experience for me. So I think his dream for me and my siblings was that we would become better people, or find a way around this. I don't know if he were alive today, if he would still be sleeping with that gun cop. And that kind of, you know, I had to go deal with that reality. You know, I'm trying to find it. He would always say, when you get really mad, don't let hate take hold of your heart, because then you lose control. He's like, so you can get mad. He's like, but don't learn to hate. Like, he didn't want us to say the word hate. You can't say hate.
Right.
Why? Say I don't like this person. Say I'm mad at this person.
Yeah.
But he never wanted us to use the words like hate. You know, when I was a very young boy, we were on the bus going from the South Bronx to the North Bronx, because he put us in a better school, trying to get us, you know, the best education, best public education he could. But I remember a man distinctly. I remember this man kept cursing, and just 7 o'clock in the morning, this guy's just going off. You know, I think he was drunk. Just language after language. And my grandfather leans over politely and says, "Could you please stop? You know, here with my kids and my little girl sitting here. I need you to stop." Guy keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. Says it again, "Please stop. There's like 2 kids sitting here. Don't you see them?" Guy keeps going, keeps going. Finally directs it toward us. Next stop, my grandfather physically picked the man up by his belt buckle and tossed him off the bus. And I was like, you know, I'm like 6. So right now, you're Superman. You're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I got to school, and as he dropped my sister off, he took me out to the side and said, "I don't want you to ever tell anybody about that." I was like, "But, you know, why? Why? I'm going to tell everybody in school." He's like, "No, that's not something to be proud of." He was like, "I wish I could have found a better way to handle it." And once again, years later, before I got the connotation that even in doing what he had to do, to him, violence was not an answer. He grew up with it. He was accustomed to it, but he wanted a better way. And, you know, I wish I was around now to talk to him. Sometimes I was like, well, what do we do now? Because, you know, you feel that rage, and I try to work really hard at not letting the hate take hold. I talk to people like you and other artists because I want us to come up with solutions, but I also want us to be vigilant going forward. Sorry, I talk a lot.
No.
But yeah.
It's real talk. It's all good. It's real
Yeah.
talk. Jarreau. Hi,
Yes,
baby.
ma'am. How you doing?
How's your COVID-19 / Juneteenth / we need to make the world a better place? How's that been working for you?
It's been a roller coaster, to be honest. Kind of like a complete whirlwind. I think, you know, for me as a full-time musician, you know, at the time we didn't really know what COVID was or how extreme it would get, and to see double-digit gigs get canceled left and right. You know, for me, being a full-time musician for 2 years now, that can seem pretty devastating. But I knew God had a plan, and I just kept telling myself that over and over and over again. Like, there's something good that's going to come out of this, even though we, you know, people are dying left and right, and we've seen what's happened in the news, and what people are telling us is the case out there. So, you know, I wanted to manage all of that, but I think that the one thing that just kept getting placed on my heart was, what could I do to bring value to my community? Because there were going to be a lot of people struggling right now, and everybody is struggling, whether you kept your job or not, because this is uncharted territory for a lot of people. So what I originally did was I said, okay, well, let me keep my focus on music. And so I, you know, had some panels, and I did a couple of tutorials online, you know, in addition to, you know, your live stream concerts and things like that. And then I think what we've all witnessed during COVID is, you know, we have this sense of, okay, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to make it through. And then the longer it went, the more people started to have anxiety. You started to get a little depressed because things are not what you thought they were going to be. And I think Sean just mentioned it, or, you know, Danny might have, about this sense of being in control. It helped people realize we're never in control. We think we are, And even though we have things in our schedules and all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
we're never in control of what happens. There's only one being that's in control of all that. I firmly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I think, you know, after a while, I started getting in kind of like this dark place, and I took about a month off of social media completely, and I really just rededicated that time to myself. So kind of what Sean was talking about. I mean, I watched music documentaries. I finally took some recording equipment out of the box, and, you know, made my own little like corner home studio so I could record my own vocals. You know, I really got deep in the word and really got deep in the scripture because I needed something to pick me up. And little did I know that God was building me up for what we're going through right now. Because it's the first day that I got back on social media was when they started protesting in Minneapolis, and everybody was trying to figure out, well, what is going on? Why are we going through this? And I just started hitting the ground running again, because I said, what can I do to bring value? What can I do to bring value? Because I'm not going to sit here and sulk. Like I gotta do something, right? So again, I've been working on some forums in addition to this one. You know, initiated some talks. I've had talks even with conservatives, Trump supporters. Like, I mean, I'm out here having the tough conversations, because that is what we need right now. And the fact that we're in COVID and everybody's home, there's nothing else to do but engage each other. Like, we have to do this. This is what is necessary. And I think the window has been open for us right now, that things that we've been talking about, kind of what Rikki was talking about earlier, with this has been something that has been talked about for decades, for centuries, and we still haven't solved it. And now everybody's in. It's like, yo, this is our time now. Let's get to the bottom of this. So to wrap it all up, I mean, COVID has been a roller coaster. Not gonna lie about that. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of questions, a lot of twists and turns. But I can truly say that God is faithful, because he kept me, kept my family safe. There's a lot of people around me that got COVID. I know people who have died from COVID. My 75-year-old cousin died from COVID in a nursing home. So I know how serious this virus can be. But God is still on the throne. You know, he still is protecting us. He's doing something in us. And I think about all of us having this time to come together and talk shows that, you know, that fire that's been put in us is necessary, because we all have to start coming together if we expect to solve these problems.
Right. With COVID being what it is, and so many Blacks have died from COVID, what can we do, ladies and gentlemen? What can we do for that, even that movement, COVID, you know, trying to get a resolution to help and support and understand, because I lost my cousin to COVID. And it was rough. It was something that, because like you said, we all think that we're going to be here, and there is no guarantee. And you have to use your faith, and you have to use strength to just walk out the door every day. What are we going to do about this, ladies and gentlemen? Davyd, Zuba.
Yes. Well, for me, actually, I take everything as a blessing, because I don't get into the negative of it, because it's made me actually slow down. And because usually, like the spring for me, I go show to show to show. I have about 5 or 6 shows that I go back to back to back to back to back. And then it's like, then everything stops. Well, this time, actually, instead of working on everybody else, I got to work on me. I get to focus on me. Right now, I'm in an international marriage. My husband lives in the Czech Republic, and he's not been able to come here. I've not been able to go there. But we've been able to deepen our relationship by coming up with these things I called husband questions, where it's a thing where it's like, I will ask him, what do you remember about when we first met? How do you think you've changed since we got married? What does my love feel like? When did you see me most vulnerable? Things that we've never, ever talked about, discussed, And now it's brought us closer, even though we're like it seems like millions of miles apart.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been both working on each other and working on our relationship. And he thinks it's been one of the best things that this COVID that could come out of it. So every time something tragic happens, there's also a positive that comes out of it. And it's us. It's us that has to look at what can we get positive out of this. And one of the things that also has happened is because of everybody staying at home, and now everybody has these camera phones, all of this stuff that Black people have been saying for years, we are seeing. We've been bombarded with it. And so what's happening is not just like Black people are complaining about it. The white people are saying, oh, we're with the Black folks on this one. Because when you sit there and see a Black man's life snuffed out in front of your eyes, you can't excuse that away. And they, at this time, couldn't excuse that away. It wasn't fuzzy, it wasn't anything like that. So now, because of that, they have the time. They've been bombarded with all this information.
Yeah.
So they have the time to look at it, and now everybody's like, let's help. What can I do?
Yeah. Rikki, you said?
It is the time. Because of COVID, people, they don't have the distractions. And case in point, I was, I watch something every morning that is something that I normally wouldn't be able to watch because I'm in back to back show. Thank you, Davyd. So I'm doing all of that. But I was just watching this documentary, and it was the one on Eric Gardner. I remember when that happened in 2014 because it's my husband's cousin. I put that completely out of my head. We had the service. I remember us being upset about it. But what did we do? We went right back to work because we were busy. That's now a movie that it took me forever to get through. I had to watch it like 10 times, but it kind of goes to what Davyd is saying. Because we're able, we can't really go anywhere. Our attention is now focused on things that we would see, we would catalog it and move on.
Right.
You can't move on when you have nowhere to go.
Right.
So it's almost as if it's COVID, it's this really odd blessing that has allowed us to see what we have been ignoring for years. Because
not just us. It's not us. It's the.
Oh no, I know it's not just us.
Our white allies are now seeing what we have been seeing for years. We've been out there marching, but again, it hasn't been taken too seriously because it's the Black folks. It's this folks. Now the white people are going, wait a minute, this could be us too. Because they're not discriminatory of who it is. It's a power play. Yes, the Black people are getting the most of it, but some of it is also to a policing thing. And now people are saying, it's that whole like adage of like, you know what, if you don't do something, if you don't do something, they're going to come for the next group. They're going to come for the next group until everybody's gone. So it's not just the one group. Once they get rid of us or try to get rid of us, then it's going to be the next people. Then it's going to be the next people. Because it's about power.
But I even go back to the point of one of the things that I said in one of my conversations or talks or something is that, and it's real talk, April 4th, 1968, we were handed the biggest baton. Here you go. My life is over. I am passing you this to continue this march. Pass that to every last one of us, white, Black, indifferent. We done put that damn thing down so many times and picked it back up, put it down, picked it back up, put it down. Please do not let us put it back down again. And I heard somebody else say that white guilt is fleeting. So is Black guilt. Because we will lock on to something, and not all of us, but the next time something shiny shows up, we're like, oh, look over there. I mean, it just becomes, we have to stop looking at the next shiny thing And it's one of those things, like, even when I met Danny, I knew where Danny stood. Danny was in for the fight, and I was like, oh, I wish I had that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has their own fight, and you're going to get to it your own way. But because of COVID, it's like now it's almost like we were Jell-O that wasn't setting, and now we're setting.
Right. So
Yes.
Danny, what? I'm sorry, I'll get to you, Jarreau. So Danny,
Yeah.
that fight that she saw, what was that about?
So some of you know that before I decided to focus completely on theatrical performance or fashion design, I'm also a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've done research in a lot of different fields, microbiology, immunology, audiology. I did in ecology as well. So it's like I have random facts always just in my head. And when your job is to observe, you tend, and you love the arts, you also tend to observe people and their tendencies of what they like to do, what they don't like to do, what they are taught. When I'm taught things in science that are on an epidemiology level, I like to look at those numbers and see how that portrays the actual community and how disproportionate things tend to be, especially towards the Black community. So when COVID-19 hit, especially, I went, oh, hell, here we go again. And it's so prevalent within the medical field that we the ones that are bearing the brunt of the deaths in this country, because we the ones who are not considered human. And so we the ones who can wait on the side while we're suffering with this virus so that they can apply the correct treatment to these other non-Black people. And just always being in that research, watching how like for instance, you said the first thing they said when COVID came out and they thought they might have a vaccine that they could start testing on, the first thing they said was, let's take this to a population that's untouched by this virus.
Right.
What population did they choose?
Is that? Yeah.
They said, let's go to Africa because we can find people who are untouched by this and we can test them. It's like, no. If it's unethical to test on your people, why is it all of a sudden ethical to test on ours? And it's seeing that on a daily basis within the science community, within every other community, that, I mean, it is W.E.B. Du Bois who says to be a Black person in America is to live in a constant state of rage. And when that becomes your new norm, that's a problem. Where it's like, oh, I'm always angry, but you just see a calm day. That's a problem. And so I use these outlets in order to tell my story, to tell the story, to assuage some of that anger, some of that. It's not even guilt. I'm pissed. I'm not guilty for nothing. Like, it's your fault, not mine. Like, that's where I get with it, right? And so it's just like, so yeah.
Because we are constantly educating and saying the same crap over and over and over again, and it looks like the same thing. You know, the testing that they did on the Scottsboro boys and the testing that, you know, the syphilis,
Tuskegee Airmen for syphilis,
the Tuskegee, test, constantly using us as guinea pigs to get to the end result.
What about the woman whose blood that they're using?
Henrietta.
Yeah,
the HeLa cells, which I used on a daily basis in my research whenever I worked with mammalian cells. So it's like I see these plates with her cells in it, and I'm just like pissed every day going to the incubator. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, Henrietta. Like, I'm sorry.
And see, in the theater community, you know, I lost a lot of brothers to the AIDS epidemic, and this looks very similar to me because nobody gave a shit about the gay Black male. So my brother died before he turned 40. And I hate to say this, and it also comes down to, which we're going to get into right now, segueing into socioeconomic, because he didn't have a chance.
Mhm.
Wishing no harm on Magic Johnson, but let's talk real talk, right? He gets to walk around and take advantage of all the comforts and survived and lived and suddenly wiped AIDS out of his system. Whereas
he was able to hang on long enough for them to get a cocktail that works, because they were willing to, he got the medical assistance that he needed. Yeah.
Because he paid for it.
And he had the money. And yeah. And people were like going,
friend? Yeah, because you know him too, David. I forgot. What about Todd? You know what I'm saying? Todd should be on this panel right now, talking with us about this.
He didn't have the money that, Michael Jordan. Let's bring it all to attention. Let's give all of our attention to him and do every test and every kind of experimental drug and see how he reacts to it. Where it's like, well, you know what? You don't have insurance, or your insurance doesn't cover this, and you're not really that important to life. You're not important to the world like Magic Johnson is.
Right. Wow. Because we're valued. See, the whole key to this, ladies and gentlemen, is when you are so used to telling people of color no, it gets exhausting. And the more and more, and these 5 people that are with me, they know what I'm talking about. You get told no on a consistent basis. And what do? We create another world or another entity so we don't get told no again, or we reinvent ourselves. Maybe even a little code switching. Maybe. It's not a maybe. We all code switch.
Well, we have to think about it.
You have to survive.
You have to survive.
We're the only culture that has been told you need to change how you are in order to be successful in America. Don't eat watermelon. Don't do fried chicken. Make
why
sure
was that a thing? Who said that was a thing? I don't even like watermelon. Why? Who said that was a thing?
But here's the thing, and you can't speak a certain way. You need to straighten your hair. You can't wear it natural. You need to dress a certain way. You can't wear the African kente cloth or anything like that. You can't get that in the corporate world.
Right.
But if you are a cowboy, you better believe you can walk into a corporate world meeting with your hat on and your boots and say, howdy, partner, and still get a job.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go in my dashiki and my big afro and my, and my name is Jamil or something like that, they don't want to hire me.
So
because
Sean,
they won't even look at my application because of my name. My name is Shaheem or Kwali, and it's just like, nope.
There is a test that if your name is a certain thing, when it comes through the test pool, ladies and gentlemen, they will put you at the bottom of the pool, at the bottom of the pile, because they just assume that you're ratchet. So they just were like, oh, we can't do Shaquanda because she's got this name. I mean, I've had customers come to me and say, well, your name is Russian. And so my mom's name is Sonia. My grandmother's name is Eva. What's your point? I swore I thought I was going to get fired before the COVID when we closed.
Anya, I don't know if I told you this story. Did I tell you about the time when I tried to when I thought about getting a job at a car dealership?
Please do.
So we talking about names, right? Yeah. And I'm so glad somebody brought that up, because as we see, I have a very unique name. I think a lot of us have unique spellings of our names. So I go to a job because I'm looking for a means to potentially make more money, but then also have the flexibility to continue to pursue my career. So I go look into a car dealership. I'm like, I'm good with people. I think I can, do whatever. So we sit in the training, and this is an older white man that's leading the training. I don't think anything of it, because I'm just like, hey, this man is trying to see, he's trying to weed out who really wants to do it. So he looks at me and looks at my name and asks me how to say it. And I tell him, and the first thing that he says is, Jarreau. Yeah, nobody's gonna remember that. So let's call you JR. And in a minute, and the minute he did it, I tried not to screw my face over because I'm like, I'm in a room with all these different people, and you brought it right on the head. It's stuff like that which really infuriates me as a Black man, especially as a Black man with a unique name, because I'm like, no. People remember my name because of the effort that I put in. They remember my name because of the quality that I give. So I let the work pronounce the name. Because trust me, if people love working with you and they love who you are as a person and they respect you, they'll remember your name. So it's that type of stuff that, like you said, keep getting pushed to the bottom of the pile. Like you're only hurting yourself by doing that. And that's what we're trying to tell people is that, look, just because you see something that doesn't look normal to you doesn't mean that you just sweep it under the rug. Like, open your eyes to a bigger opportunity.
I'd like to also add that that's laziness on their part, because if you could take the time to learn Tchaikovsky, then you can learn that name.
Right. If you can take the time to learn about everything, why can't you learn about us? Why is this new? Why is this suddenly a thing that we're sitting in a panel discussion and people don't want to take the time to know who we are? We take the time to know who you are. Why can't you take the time to know who we are and what we stand for and what we do? Because I tell you what, if you dig deep, you're going to find out some really cool stuff about
our history is American
history. Why me walking into a room in a dashiki, why does that threaten you? If that's my heritage, why does that threaten you? And why do you think that that's not professional? But the guy who comes in the big cowboy hat with the suit on with the fringe, that's still professional.
Oh, hold on, Rikki. Just a sidebar. I just want to let you guys know that we have a great contribution that was given to us already as we're sitting here having this dialogue. Any proceeds that you are going to give to us is going to go to the Black Lives Matter movement. End of story. It's going to go for this movement. It's also going to support the artists that are here right now. So please use the link that is on the screen, and we definitely appreciate it because it's going to go somewhere worthwhile. Rikki.
So in response to Davyd, one of the things why is it that when you walk in the room in a dashiki, and why don't they go learn about us? So the same thing that both of you are saying, it's because think back to when we were in kindergarten. Think back to when we were going through history, social studies, whatever that is. We were all raised in school. We were all taught, not raised. We were all taught what things were about. Your dashiki didn't show up in anybody's book. Kwanzaa recently just got in there. Juneteenth ain't in there at all. They get as close to Martin Luther King and a little bit of Malcolm X, and that's the history of Black folk. Obama's gonna make an appearance, but that's just if they pay enough for them to get new books. Otherwise, they just gonna know by osmosis. But the reason is that the training that has been done, the reason why they don't know about us, we don't exist in a book that is in school. And if you're asking people to look at a book outside of school, child, what are you talking about?
Right.
Just for me, I don't read. Right. I know. I admit it myself. I've been reading more since COVID, but I don't read.
I have to tell you a very interesting story. And I don't know if you worked at the West End Dinner Theater.
She did. Yes, you did.
I did?
Nonsense. Oh, no, that was a sleazy Susan. No, that was a lazy Susan.
West End Dinner Theater. West End Dinner Theater.
Same thing. Down at the other end of the Beltway. Way down.
West End Dinner Theater had a big, all the dressing rooms were downstairs. And they had a big hallway, and then there's little rooms in the hallway. Well, there was a big table that had magazines and books and stuff like that. Well, I was doing MAME with my friend Vivian, and we got cast in the show. We're doing it. And so this is a 3-month run. And so my parents, when I was young, brought me these Negro encyclopedias. and they have everything in here, all these different Black people in science, and just like encyclopedias, science, math, history, everything, arts and entertainment, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole thing. I brought them in and put them on that table. And don't you realize I saw every single person in that cast pick up one of those encyclopedias and start reading and learning about the history of Black people. Because those are the books I used when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school. Those are the books I did my reports on. So when they're saying, okay, we need you to do a report. Okay, I'm doing Frederick Douglass. I'm doing Harriet Tubman, what everybody else is doing, George Washington, and all this other kind of stuff. I'm doing Martin Luther King. Okay, we're going to do music. I'm doing Marvin Gaye. I'm doing this person. I'm doing Scott Joplin, because those were my encyclopedias I had. I didn't have the white ones. My parents, they were, I guess, ahead of their time, or they were smart or did something, but we had a whole Negro encyclopedia, and I think they're by 26 volumes. You can't get that anymore. It's amazing. You can still sit there and read that. That's where I was getting educated. So my parents made sure, even though if I wasn't getting it from the school, I got it from them. I got it from these books that they gave us to read about the Negro's contribution to the world.
You were
and I was
lucky.
lucky.
I ain't get that.
Yeah, I was lucky
because
I still to this day, I don't know where my parents found those things or where they got those things, but we had these things called the Negro Encyclopedia, and they are amazing. And like one of my friends was so funny because he was like, his name Ron Crumay. He was like, I wonder if my voice teacher's in here, because his voice teacher was one of the first African American men to sing at the Met, and he was in that book.
Yeah. Right.
As an
was the Green Book guy in the book? You know,
he probably was. He probably was.
So
you know, because
that's how we got our history. We got our history from Roots. We got our history from, you know, David. You said
dimples,
encyclopedias.
Yeah.
We got our history from Cabin in the Sky, Stormy Weather, which is really not history, but it's history of a time period that we lived in Harlem.
Yeah.
And it was something
those are artistic snapshots of the times.
Right.
They're artistic snapshots of the times.
Exactly. Talk about it, Sean.
The encyclopedias he's talking about is funny because back when Jet and Ebony were independent and stood alone,
Jet. Talk about Jet.
That's where those encyclopedias come from. We had them. I also had Gold Emblem, something called Gold Emblem Comics when I was young. My grandfather knew I loved to read, so he'd walk in, take my comics, and hand me these other comics. So I learned about people like Bass Reeves and the Dumas family when I was in elementary school, because he was like, yeah, here, this is good stuff. They're feeding you junk. He bought those same encyclopedias, and it was funny because he would see me sitting in a room for an hour reading one whole encyclopedia, then dumping it, going for the next one. And when it came to something like a book, I was always allowed to have that. But as artists, the arts have always been the way for oppressed people to take a snapshot of what is going on around them socially. That's always been put on the arts, whether it be the playwright, the painter, the designer. If you even look, I remember my aunt, God rest her soul, she passed. You know, she had a stack of Jets from day one. And I would look at the fashion design in those, and you could see our design was always to the left. It was, no, we're not built like you. I see your pencil skirt, I raise you the A-frame for us because we got something going on. So it was always about us. And at a point in time when we started losing momentum, when people like Jet are saying they didn't transition to an online format, or Ebony was like, we're going to sell, we lost that little bit of independence that came from the movement. We knew we needed our own. And I think that was the challenge. I think there was a time when Black parents were like, they knew they'd walk, I want my kid to get an education, but I know you're not going to learn what you need. So when you come home, here's your other education.
Right.
Here's the other thing you need to know.
Right. Because like my mom, it was George Washington Carver, Crispus Attucks.
Yes.
Then in my Benjamin Banneker. Then in my day, it was Martin Luther King, but they were, and Malcolm X was bad. in my high school life. And then my daughter said they barely get it. And she's 18 years old. They barely get it. They get nothing, which makes her furious.
Well, you got to remember,
the education system has got to revamp that.
Well, you got the comedian George Carlin said something way back in like the 70s that was really kind of profound. He said, you know, they used to teach kids this thing called civics. Civics is the study of government and how it works.
Right.
It explains to you what you have to do to organize, become a political party, start a movement, he's like, they took it out. And they gave you what they call social studies, which is literally, this is how you're going to get along. Social studies does not speak to any of the movements, both political in our society. Little by little, you think about how many things have transitioned. You know, we're talking about the cowboy going into the office. They would never call themselves boys. The cowboy is a black thing. We were the ones who cleaned out Texas. The first Texas Rangers, all black. The first people to handle cattle were black. But the term cowboys come to now mean this tall white guy with long hair and a big hat. He's, hey, how am I doing? Picture them calling themselves boys. That was the word simply for us. You could be an 80-year-old man with a chest full of medals. They say, hey, boy. And you're like, what the, you know? Right. And that's the challenge. So we realize a lot of what they say and claim, it's not even theirs. Right. It's not theirs. It's been appropriated. So we look at that, and what we have to realize is we have to take ownership for ourselves, and we have to be about the movement. I think about some of the things that Black Americans have gone through. I think about the people. I don't know if you guys remember, they did a study a couple of years back, and there was a big thing on 2020 about how the AIDS epidemic had affected Black women more than any other. So the guy is going around, whoever it is, and he's interviewing different people. He talks about, he talked to Magic Johnson, who was like, well, I know I have a lot of access, and what I would like to do is start more access for others. He's like, okay, well, when are you gonna get started on that?
Yeah, get them moving.
He went to the big evangelist, black guy, bald head, big jawline. You know who I'm talking about. TD Jakes.
TD Jakes. Yeah. Okay.
He said, you have the largest platform right now of anybody. He said, Black women are suffering disproportionately from AIDS. He's like, some of these women are mothers who have been received it from lovers. Some of them, he's like, there's actually a percentage, 20% of them who've received it from bad blood transfusion. He was like, they need help. Why aren't you breaking this down? You know, you are a face, you are a beacon. He's like, your church is huge. You're literally raking in millions. He said, I just don't think Black people are ready to talk about AIDS. And he was kind of like, but it's killing a large percentage of your population. Yeah, but so when we run into those old school walls, part of it is we have to get past. We have threats within and threats without. And I think sometimes we have to put our love for ourselves at a higher value. I cannot, and it's sometimes you watch things to get educated. Sometimes they just break your heart because it's people are saying, hey, this is bad. You want to do something? Oh, I kind of want to, and you realize every time we've lost a leader, we have yet to have somebody as dynamic as Malcolm or has, fiery as King, or they've all found a way to make a deal. I want to get by. I don't want to thrive. I want to get by. Hey, if I'm doing well, you should be doing okay. And that's the thing about that course that keeps getting put down. It is literally just the inability to say, let me tell you what I'm willing to give up. So I think when I think about all the things that people go through, from our names to our hair, we work in the same place, Anya, and without giving out names, we had one of our favorite coworkers when she first got hired. She wore her hair in kind of these plaits because she was going through so much personally. And I heard two of our store leaders, two of our managers, make a comment about her hair. One was a white woman and one was a sister. And they made a comment about her hair. And I made it my mission that they would not figure out a way to fire her. I said, you're about to become the best employee they've ever seen. She was like, really? I was like, oh, trust me. Because now I got my hate on. I'm real mad. I was like, I'm a new kind of mad. Just up here just First week on the
Because
job, you got something negative to say?
she was being damned for just being her. But let's
For
put
being her.
just for being her.
Yeah.
So let's
Oh,
put
yeah.
let's do the word, y'all. Let's talk about this word. Systemic racism.
Systemic.
Let's talk about it. Jarreau.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
It's real. I've seen too many reports and an old way of thinking saying that, well, systemic racism doesn't exist. I mean, it's a trickle down effect. It's a domino effect. Like there's so many instances that I could use. And I'll really just put it in my own personal experience because I don't want to talk too much on things that I don't know. But if you look at, we were just talking about school and the curriculum. If you look at honors classes, we called them tag classes. I don't know if they still call them that from when I was in school. But a lot of times with tag classes, I was either the only Black male or one of a handful of African-American students in those classes. And a lot of times we were pretty much, it was almost like they were trying to hold us down, or even like had our own people coming after us just for us being intelligent and us wanting to ascend. And then when you think of certain things like redlining, if you're already saying that a particular community is not a livable place, well, guess what? The resources are not going to those communities. And those communities are mostly filled with people who look like us. So if we're not getting the resources, if our people are not getting the resources, but then you got other parties of people that are getting all the latest equipment, they're getting the best books, they're getting the top computers. I mean, I worked in a Title I school, so I saw this stuff firsthand where we have students that are getting hand-me-down iPods and hand-me-down computers, and then we're expecting them to go out in the world and be just as successful as somebody who's been given everything. And it's not realistic. And the fact that there are people out there, I call it willful ignorance, that will actually say, well, I don't believe systemic racism exists. I mean, look around your communities. Look in the suburbs. If you don't see people that don't look like you living in those suburbs, what does that tell you? Now, I'm not trying to say that, all of us are not meant to ascend, because I think it's safe to say everybody around this panel, we've come up from families that mediocre wasn't good enough. We were told like, no, you're going to ascend. You're going to be somebody and you're going to work hard and do these other things, no matter what the system tries to tell you. And then we want to talk about, and I'll throw it to everybody on the panel, but the biggest thing that I see when we're talking about systemic racism is the justice system. Because I'm sorry, whether somebody is innocent or guilty, why is it that two people could be accused of the same crime or even charged for the same crime, but you're seeing a white counterpart barely get any jail time and hundreds of hours of community service, but then you see a Black person getting 20 years or the maximum penalty? What's happening with that? And I know every case is different, but at the same time, that we've seen stuff where it could be the exact same case, and we're seeing too many people of color that are being put into jail versus other people that are given a slap on the hand. For them, it's a mistake. For us, it could be a death sentence. One wrong move could be a death sentence, physically or through the jail system. So when I look at that, systemic racism is real. And anybody who doesn't say that, do your research. Look it up.
Right. Rikki, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. You say.
Racism has been around for a long time. It's in the fabric. It's in the Constitution. It's what everything was built on. It's what this country was made on. Someone that didn't belong here came over here and said, we're going to take the land from the indigenous people, crucified them. Then they're going to crucify everyone else just so that they can be superior. It's continuously happening. it's systemic, it's institutionalized, it is rooted in the fabric of what makes us us. So it's not that we can't get out of it, but this path that we're on is not a quick fix. And I know, honestly, we all get tired. And I have said it multiple times to my husband. I was like, I do not know how the people before us, Martin Luther King, all that, they must have been tired. When it was time for them to go to their grave, it's almost like they dove into it like, can I get some rest? Because I'm tired and I only been doing this for a month. So it's
with social media.
Yeah. So it's that. And I keep telling people, it's like, this is not a quick fix. It took us 400 plus years to get here. It's going to take us 400, 500 plus to get out of it. So if you're looking for a quick fix to the past, to what's going to happen to the present, hey, I move to Mars. It's not happening here. That's
but
just
we also have to be positive, because there are changes that we've never seen before. But what we have to do now, wait a minute. You mean you're taking Aunt Jemima off the shelf? Okay, well then take off Uncle Ben. So it's like, so now we have the power. Let's keep pointing out other things they need to do, because they are listening now. They are changing. Get rid of this Confederate flag. And now people are like, well, I'm going to watch NASCAR now. They're getting rid of the flag. They're getting rid of this Confederate flag. So we're seeing what's happening, which we've been screaming about things for years now, but now there are things changing. So now we need to add more to the list. Let's add to the list what we want to be changing, because they are listening now. We got their ear, because we've actually, a lot of Black and white people, Hispanic, Asian, Indian people have unified and said, we have power now. We need to push this and help our brothers here, because they've been getting the short end of the stick. So we need to find that list of what else we need to change. Because I to be honest, and I'll be truthful with this, I was a little sad about Aunt Jemima. Okay, because Aunt Jemima to me meant Sunday morning breakfast. It was Sunday morning breakfast that my mother would do, and it was like the pancakes and stuff like that. But then when you read about it, it's like, that's a racist character. That's a minstrel character. And they tried to like marginalize it or make it even more acceptable by taking off the kerchief off her head and giving her pearl earrings and giving her a younger look. But in the beginning, she was black as coal with white lips going, yep, them pancakes sure do taste good, good. All that kind of stuff, and was the whole monkey shine. And so it was just like, we were so used to that. You can even see on YouTube, there's a commercial of Gladys Knight singing about Aunt Jemima. So we had our brain washed that this is acceptable. So we got to clean our house. And now that they are opening the door, let's throw all of this crap out. Start throwing more and more, and just keep adding to the list of the changes that we want to see. Because now you got people in theater are going, wait a minute, I got to talk to my Black actors, performers, and stuff like that, and see what do they need, because I don't want to be on the wrong side of history with this thing, because there are a lot of people that are losing their jobs for all these little racist comments that they're doing. And now they're trying to look at, how can we be more diverse? The woman who created Friends is now looking at, you know what? I should have looked at this a little differently.
Yeah, she did.
She already took it from Living Single.
Living Single. It was the same thing. It's the same premise.
How are you going to have a show about Friends, no people of color, and actually
in New York?
In Greenwich Village.
Ain't nobody from New York. When did that happen?
And look,
I never watched that show.
But look, you'd be hard to even find them in the background. So you weren't even.
They were not in the background. They weren't even walking down the street.
Yeah, and then
But then they appeased us by bringing Aisha Tyler. Exactly. By
for a couple of episodes.
Aisha.
But she's like, she's gone.
Not appeased.
She's gone.
Not
I
appeased.
wasn't
You know,
pleased.
she's
I was
gone.
not pleased. Trust me.
Yeah.
I
did
want to
you-
hear what Danny has to say.
I was getting ready to go to Danny. Go.
So the thing with Friends, that's another way that they're okay. Systemic racism. All right?
Yeah, that's why I was like, let her talk, because she's about to. Woo, I got
Systemic
popcorn.
racism is more than just the system. It is a psychology. It is why we pit each other against each other, because there is a trauma that has been passed down through the generation to that we literally hear what they're telling us about being less and then applying it to our brethren. All right.
Mhm.
It's not even a dislike for each other. It is what they told us, and we are just channeling what we've constantly heard.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So they constantly are coming up with methods, with ways to reiterate what their rhetoric. Okay. The Constitution was built for the white man. It does not support any other person other than the white man. And
Right.
I'm putting an emphasis on the man here, because it's not
Mhm.
even the white woman. Although the
There's
white
some.
woman is the
Mhm.
person who actually sees the law through. Okay. When there was segregation within the schools and they've eliminated segregation within the school, the law was written by the man. The law was executed by the white woman. She stood in front of the doors to keep the children from going into the school. All right. So there's a psychological problem within the sexes in and of itself and the system. And they've also created things within the system, within our everyday life, to constantly reiterate the rhetoric. For instance, the game Monopoly. Monopoly in and of itself is teaching you how to do redlining. If you look at the board itself, the properties are divided by a railroad system. And the property value on one side of the railroad system is different than the property value on the other side of the railroad system. However, when you pass go, you get the stimulus check. Okay, but the stimulus check, when you pass go, only helps the people on one side of the railroad. So like, okay, so you're not even gonna say that it's not just the written law. They come up with ways to remind us that we are less than, and they come up with ways to fortify that way to remind us that we are less than. So no, it's not a quick job, because we got too many things to break down, because they built all of it up just to make sure that we do not succeed. And on top of which, we keep talking about how they keep wanting. We said earlier that a lot of legislation is going through these days.
Hold on.
Not even
Ladies and
legislation.
gentlemen, this is youth. This is youth right
Yes.
here.
This
This
youth.
is what I meant. This is what
This
I
is
meant
you.
years ago.
This is youth. Youth is rewriting the damn narrative. Go on, Danny, do the damn thing. Keep talking about it.
I got my
It's
popcorn,
not
girl.
even
A
legislated.
girl,
It's
you
not
know,
even-
I'm gonna take
it's
a
not
sip
even-
because
I have to
so-
throw away my Monopoly game now.
I can't stand
Yo, put this on the
that
recap,
game.
y'all. Make
I
sure
can't
this
even-
is the
I
recap.
can't even play it anymore,
that
girl.
game.
Thank you.
I can't even look at the
play
same
it anymore.
way.
It
And
used to
notice
be
how
my favorite
hey,
game.
And notice how the houses are red and green. See,
Yes.
see,
Yeah.
and black
No,
people
see,
play.
I can't even play
See?
Monopoly anymore.
Now I can't even look
Literally.
at it.
Now, on
Preach,
top
girl.
of that,
Go.
we got advertisement right now. Everybody in the industry saying, "Ooh, black is hip right now. We need to be a part of the movement." What they're doing is shining something shiny in front of your eyes, okay? Because they're not dealing with the actual problem. They just doing things to make you feel like you being addressed, okay? I don't.
Yeah,
if you're
look
gonna
over
take on,
there. That's what
if
they're
you're
doing.
gonna take on Jemima off of the label,
right,
you're gonna
Jada
tell us
Essence
why
Hall.
you take on Jemima off the label.
Right.
You're gonna own that thing that you did back in the past. You're not just gonna take her off and act like it ain't never happened, okay? When these statues come down, you're not gonna just take the statue down. You're gonna say why you took that statue down. You're gonna admit to what you did and the history that's lying within that statue, okay? Because when you take that down, that's once again, you just burning a piece of history, acting like you ain't never did nothing. When we know you did something, and these statues weren't even put up to commemorate that person who was in that statue. This statue was once again put up to remind you psychologically that you were less than. They keep
Right.
giving, they keep the allies that we have within the system, the white male, the white gay male, what do? They gave him a legislation to make him feel happy. They are trying to tear apart our fight because they know that we are ready right now. They ain't never seen a fight like they've seen this past month. Okay. And they are scared. Right. We got them against the ropes. And so what they're trying to do is trying to pick us apart. But they're trying to give everybody else other than the black man what they needed. Right? They give this to the white gay male. They give this to the immigrants. Who else they gonna help yet? But in all these legislation that they passed, they literally released that they're still not gonna look at the police police brutality and how police are treated how police are regulated with
that bill the bill that Trump signed is a joke.
Oh no, there's another bill
it's to appease you. It's to appease you.
They did two things out at the same time. They released the first one about the word sex within a civil rights moment, and then they released another one saying no, we will not revisit police brutality, essentially. But the rest of the world was all celebrating about this. And I am with you, my brothers and sisters within the LGBT community. This is a big win. However, do not get distracted about the other fights that's still going on, because this is what they are doing. They are trying to tear apart, weaken the fight, because they know if they can make you happy, then you already appeased. We don't need to do anything else.
Yeah, and that's what they do. They keep throwing, and that's the thing. It's like, we're here, we got this, because I had a conversation with a group of friends that were like, we're in this with you. Oh, they just passed that new law. I can't find out one of them now. Mind you, they're now on my blacklist, which is not a good place to be. But it's just one of those things where you see people, I am really in it, and I'm starting to do a lot of talks within the theater community, because we've sat back and we've been the third Negro to the left way too long in shows that we didn't need to be that way in. And people are like, oh, so how are we going to do this? And I've had them say, oh, we can just put on The Color Purple. Please do not put on a black show right now. Right now, what you need not do is put on Color Purple. Anything where we are 100%, it's just for us. Only thing you're doing is placating me, just to make me feel like you're doing something for me. No, I want you to put on Cinderella, and I want you to cast that thing diversely. Now, I'm not asking you to do that with Dreamgirls, because that's a no. But I'm just saying there are shows out there where you can cast diversely, and that's what I'm going for. I don't want you to have to look at me, and when I come in a room and audition for you, that I hear, can you sing anything? Because I'll go in, I'll sing my straight musical theater piece, because I am auditioning for a straight musical theater piece. And do you have anything that is ethnic?
Sounds black.
Gospel? No, I get the more, do you have anything that's gospel? So I snapped one time. This was in North Carolina. I snapped, and I was like, sure. Can you play gospel? I mean, more than just the chords. Mind you, I didn't get the part, but I'm just like, the assault that you get from the front, being cast in I forgot the name of the show. Oh, State Fair. So I was cast as the Eve Arden character. Loved it. Got picked up by men. I was like, yes, I'm living my best life. We walked out to hug people afterwards, and literally in North Carolina, which does not shock me, it's my home state, but to hear people say, oh my gosh, it's a black girl. Yes. It doesn't wash off. It's right here. Because we do the meet and greet afterwards. Everyone got
meet and greeting, and then they're coming for you. And
no,
then
I would hear them saying it coming down.
Right.
And they would skip over me.
Yeah.
Those are the things that infuriate me. And those are the things that people are like, wow, it shouldn't have happened. No, it happens every day, but in just about every single
like what you were saying, you use Cinderella as a barometer. People don't know that was produced by Whitney Houston. The movie was produced by Whitney, starred Whoopi Goldberg with Victor Gerber, Pablo, all mixed up, Brandy. All mixed up.
What's her name? The woman from BAPS. She played one of the evil stepsisters.
Yeah.
With
Natalie Desselle.
yeah, her. Yeah.
And that was back in the 90s.
Yeah, but I'm like,
So-
these are things that can be
Right.
done, and they don't. Like, I was very happy that the theater that
But she
I
had
was
to get
working with
approval
in
from
Charlotte-
Rodgers and Hammerstein to do it, though.
Yeah.
She had to get that approval.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
But-
had to get the approval for them to do that. Yeah.
Danny.
All right,
Because
go,
once
Danny. Wait a minute. Let me
Come
get my
on.
popcorn ready.
We ready.
Once again, that right, ooh, okay, that right there, once again, is the white man trying to tell you how to tell the story, because they have been in possession of the pen for so long. They say those who own the pen, or those who have the pen, tell the history. It's time to pass the pen around. Okay, they've been holding on to this pen for too damn long. Their history, they have rewritten history. They refuse for us to write it back, to diversify it, to tell the actual story, which Whitney was trying to show you that this applies to everyone. And it's why there was an uproar about having a Black Ariel. Like, it's a mermaid.
But why is that a thing?
Why are you upset about it?
Thing?
Yo, but you know why it's a thing? Because now what people have been accustomed to believe is being questioned now. And it's really causing people to look deep down within themselves and question everything that they've known and question everything that they've grown up on. That's what we're seeing about everything right now. Go ahead, Dan, because I ain't gonna cut you off, bro. Better preach.
Everything they've learned has been a lie because white man has owned the pen. They tell the story of ancient Rome. Ancient Rome was around the Mediterranean Sea. I don't know last time y'all checked what the Mediterranean Sea is in the middle of, but last I checked, it was Africa and Europe. Okay, so it's like they forget that there's a bottom half of the sea, right? Because like this is where the Black people are, but we gonna tell the part about this part of this. If you look at it, I've been telling Rikki about how I've been going back to my history.
I soak it up all the time.
Okay, so I've decided that I was just gonna go back and learn history, right? I went back to prehistory because I wanted to see, when does this skewed language really truly start? Which it started right there on the first word for prehistory, because they define prehistory as history told before history was written down. Okay, but then they include that there were cave drawings and other paintings and such for artwork that actually told you about this prehistory, which means that there were things actually written down. They were just too lazy to actually transcribe it and translate it. What that meant was
too stupid. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, before the Rosetta Stone, prehistory was actually pushed up. Like they had to push it back once they finally figured out what the Rosetta Stone was.
But I was gonna say a lot of it is they were just too stupid.
I mean,
keep it real.
Like,
keeping it real.
When you look at okay, like the thing that I told Rikki that like blew my mind is, do you realize that the Dark Age was only in Western Europe? They make it seem like the whole world had the Dark Ages, but literally that at that same time of the Dark Age, China was prospering. That was one of the best times in technologically advancement, all that kind of things. Like literally the only history that they tell you is about their history. They don't tell you about anything else. And so when you look at in the drawings about where the first life was created within the rift in Ethiopia, in Africa, the pictures that they draw of the Homo sapien are white. Like, how is that even possible? Like, where you look at where Jesus was, he's white, but the actual population there is not white. They just keep, when looking at that horrible man, Columbus, going over to the West Indies, or his New India, because he was so lazy that after he realized he got in the wrong place, he was just going to call it West Indies. So he'd be like, yeah, I still kind of made it there. And he literally took their names of the people there and was like, you know what? I don't like that word that you call yourself. I'm gonna call you something else. And like they have the pen, they've written the history, they've changed the history when it's not even that history. And it's to the level where it's touched every subject in elementary school, in geometry, you learn about triangles, right? The first thing you learn about triangles is about the Pythagorean theorem. That man went to school in Egypt to learn about triangles that built those pyramids, you know, the ones that aliens came and made because they can't figure out how they built them. He went to university in Egypt to learn about triangles. He came back with newfound knowledge, and then they gave him the title. If you look back in the actual mathematic transcripts of the scholar paper, the peer-reviewed papers for mathematics, after a certain point, they just stopped citing other professors, other people within the field. All those people within the field were African, and they just stopped citing them because now they're no longer relevant. It's because the white man now has the information, and we're the ones who found it. It's like, but that's the one that gets me the most. His theorem is plagiarized. Bottom line.
When you
like,
when
you're not going to tell me that Cleopatra is not like Elizabeth Taylor? She's not like this fair-skinned, blonde woman?
No, boo.
Did you recently? Here's my personal favorite thing. The History Channel just did a documentary on Hannibal. They were bombarded with emails because they were like, "Why is he black?" And one of my favorite responses from a professor, he was like, "We're not talking about the serial killer. We're talking about the general of Carthage." He was like, and I just was like, perfect response. He's like, "Why would you think that he wasn't black? He's been black." Now, I remember about 10, 15 years ago, somebody said, "Oh, well, Carthaginians aren't Africans, so how could he be black?" I was like, we were all over the place. We have never just been in one place. I'm reading a book about the, I forget his name, it's hard to pronounce, the Black Samurai right now. And it's funny because these guys did all this research and they were like, well, this is a professional soldier. So, you know, when people refer to it, it's like, oh, he was this slave who was lucky enough to be, he wasn't a slave, he was a mercenary. So even when people speak of dialogue, you go between the actual historians and intellectuals to these laymen who are like, you need to be a slave in this story. And it's kind of like, no, I don't want to be that. Well, come on. Isn't it a great story? It's like, it's not. And you always think about the everyday battles. I remember Dave Chappelle's whole, when they wanted him to wear a dress, and he said, I don't want to wear a dress. And they were the whole thing about how they had the dress, they had the script, they had all this. He's like, first of all, when I signed up, this scene wasn't in the movie. You're telling me you wrote the scene and then went out and got the dress before you talked to me. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, that's just not going to happen.
Right.
He's like, so what are you going to do now? And they were just like, oh, we don't have to do it, I guess. And I remember him talking about it. He was like, it bothered him because they were good to go. Hey, you know what? You're really funny. What if I can put you in this dress? You'd be funnier than me. And he's like, no. It's like, no, it doesn't even make sense in the context. You guys just think this is funny for you because, you know, and that's always the battle is, you know, and I'm blessed that I have a lot of strong black women in my family who tell me all the time, it's okay to get along, but it's not your job to make anybody comfortable. If they're uncomfortable, it's their problem.
Hold on. So guys, everything is dimming for George Floyd. We're going to take a minute to dim our screens, and then we're going to come right back for the rest of our show. Thank you guys so much for being with us. We're going to take this time for a moment of silence, and then we'll be right back. This is our technical. I did. Yeah, I'm okay. Can you hear me now?
Got you. Got you
Got it.
now.
Okay,
You can hear me
cool.
now.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this
Can you
is
hear me?
our first. Yeah.
Okay.
This is our first foray into doing these open dialogues. I'd like to continue and do some more of these because I think it's important to talk. I think it's important that we have open dialogues. We didn't cover everything. And like Rikki said, it's going to be a minute. This is not a
Yes.
quick fix. This is not Aunt Jemima. This is not Miss Butterworth's. Let me tell you a funny story about Miss Butterworth's. So our friend Vivian, David and I, we were kikiing and she said on our chat, what did Miss Butterworth do? And I said, oh, but girl, she looked like a mammy. She's like, what? I just was having pancakes. I was like, yeah. So I got a chuckle out of that because it lightened the mood. But it was a beautiful moment amongst
But she was
us.
also saying, she just looks like a housekeeper.
Right. She just looked like a housekeeper. I'm like, no, girl, she looks like a mammy.
Why are y'all
So-
calling her out like that? Wow, friends.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I see how this is. Friends.
Yes, how this is. But I called her out.
We're speaking
I called her
truth.
because I love her. Because
I was
we're all
told that I was
educated.
coming on here to speak truth.
No,
Yeah.
I get that, but I'm
Exactly.
just saying she's right there.
She
okay,
said
thank
she's
you.
good.
She said she's good.
But yeah,
I'm just like that. She
for
right
those of
there.
you, yeah. So for those of you that have joined us, we really appreciate it. We've raised a substantial amount of money. It's a blessing. Thank you guys for your donations. It's going to go to an amazing cause. I'd love to thank my family here because we definitely, I know who each of you, now I see you and I know who you are. And I'm definitely going to have, this forum again, because I think it's important that we have all walks and conversation. But I'm going to go to each of you and I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I will let go of Jarreau. I will let go of.
I'll let go of negativity.
David, I will let go of.
Yeah, I'm going to let go of the anger that I see when my brothers are treated wrong. I have to let that go.
Danny, I let
because
go.
I'm not walking in a good place.
Right. Danny, I will let go.
I will let go of trying to placate others, or basically to make my voice smaller. I will, because I need to learn to take up more space.
Right.
So I will let go of that need to placate.
Rikki, I will let go of.
Apathy.
Sean, I'm grateful for.
I am grateful for the people in my life who fortify me, who show me value as a human being, whether it be friends or family. I have found a lot of people that I have always had. I thought we had great relationships. I found out how great because the first thing they said was, "Did you see this shit? How are you? How are you dealing?" And it touched my heart in the sense that there's a sense of loneliness, but I'm grateful for this. The love that I put out there has a value, and it does come back to you.
Danny, I'm grateful for.
I'm grateful for my family, and that includes blood and non-blood, those who I've chosen as my family to surround me by.
All right. Jarreau, I'm grateful for.
I'm grateful for God's love and his wisdom, and allowing bad things to happen to bring us closer to him, and allow us to lean on him when times get hard.
David, I'm grateful for.
I'm grateful for those who are willing to listen and learn and walk through the door of change.
Rikki, I will focus on.
My unapologetic voice.
Say it again. Say it for the people in the back, please.
My unapologetic voice.
Damn right.
Hear that?
You hear it?
Oh,
Danny,
no, I'm sorry.
I will focus on. Right. Danny, I will focus on.
Being blackity black.
Blackity black.
I saw that video today. That took me out. It took me out. I was like,
Right.
okay.
David,
those are the
I will
words.
focus on.
I will focus on contacting Hasbro so they could change the Monopoly game so I can play it.
Oh, okay.
And I will
I have
focus
no
on
words.
truth.
I have no words. No words.
Jarreau, I will focus on.
I will focus on continuing to be the change and being an open door for some of my friends who still may not get it and are trying to still make sense of what's going on. So I will continue to be the change and be that open door.
Sean Briggs, I will focus on.
Being more of a creator and not feeding anything that destroys. I want to feed the fires of a forge that creates.
And ladies and gentlemen, we will all lead and we will all speak. Do we agree?
Yes.
We're all
Yeah.
gonna lead,
Yeah.
and we're all going to speak in
Yeah.
our lives. And if we feel a hole or if we feel empty, then we will rely on each other and those around us to bring the light back to this conversation.
Yeah.
So with that,
Right.
I have a poem from Mr. Sean Briggs. Take it away, Mr. Briggs.
Thank you very much. My headphones, can you hear me? My headphones just died.
Yeah.
You
I
still
hear
hear
you.
me?
Yep.
Good. All right.
Yep.
Oh, good. One of them died. Weird. All right, here we go. Sometimes I get caught between the fury from the outside and the fury from within. It's like being trapped in a forest fire. They try to put out with gasoline. Run, hide, or breathe, you can't. Even sleep, cousin to death, offers no reprieve. Heat is an anagram for hate. Old warning, older lies. Tying skin to sin, binding, breaking, branding, melting. Flesh from bone, leaving only embers to spark. In battered, charred souls, hate is an anagram for heat. New world still drowning in the blood of the old. It's not enough to protect your neck. You have to guard your very soul.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor that we had Jerome Williams here on the panel. He's going to take us home with an old school, but there's a new school. And then we're going to bring each other back, and then we're going to say goodnight to all of you. Jarreau, kick it off, my brother.
All right. Well, I know my Latino family here is going to share a video that I created that I actually debuted today on my YouTube page. Yep. So I was recording a virtual concert for DC Fray, which is going to air this Friday. And essentially what I did for that was me and my bandmates, we knew given what the climate was that we couldn't let this opportunity pass. We had to send some sort of a musical message and use music as our weapon to just kind of channel what we were feeling about all the current events. And we actually recorded this on Blackout Tuesday. So, you know, we have songs that can transcend generations. You know, so I tell all of my musicians out there, when you're working on a song, don't get discouraged if you don't get the amount of attention that you're looking for right out the gate, because once a song is out there, it's out there and it can travel anytime. So we did this Marvin Gaye rendition of What's Going On, because even though it was very relevant back then when he wrote it, it's very relevant right now. So I'll let Mike take it over.
Mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, there's far too many of you dying. You know we've gotta find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah, Father, to escalate. You see, war is not the answer, for only love can conquer hate. You know we've gotta find a way to bring some love in here today. Yeah. Picket lines and picket signs don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see, oh, what's going on, what's going on, hey, what's going on, I'll tell you, but what's going on. Ooh. Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Father, Father, everybody thinks we're wrong. Oh, but who are they to judge us simply 'cause our hair is long? You know we've gotta find a way to bring some understanding here today. Yeah. Picket lines and picket signs don't punish me with brutality. Come on, talk to me so you can see, oh, what's going on, yeah, what's going on, oh, what's going on, I'll tell you what's going on. Hey, ah, yeah, 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 yeah. Woo! What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? Oh, what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. What's going on? Hey, what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. Hey.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes. Yay.
It-
Wow. That's how we do it, y'all. That's how we end it. So,
I
ladies
have to
and
tell you
gentlemen,
that
yes, Josh.
my dad, that was the first cassette that my dad bought me.
What's that? Tell the children out. Tell the children out in the audience what a cassette is.
That was the very first cassette, Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On."
Tell them what a cassette is, because for
A
real,
cassette
Magnetic
was about
strip of
this
tape.
big.
little strip of
I
tape.
got a cassette player because he knew I loved music, bought me a cassette player, and the first cassette he bought me was Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On."
Yeah.
And I probably was like 7 or 8 years old, and I listened to that. And you had to flip it to the other side. Take
Right.
the
I'm on
cassette out,
side two.
Take it out,
and
flip
put
it
it on
over.
Side two.
Flip it.
And I
8-track,
think I probably
flip it
listened
over.
to that
Put it
every
back in.
single
Yes.
day of my life.
That
Hey,
was
I know
the
8
album.
tracks
That's the
too.
album.
Those are
That-
nice.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah.
That's
The
it.
first time I heard it,
So-
I had to push the 8-track into my uncle's Monte Carlo because he was driving and smoking, and he wanted me to change the music. He was like, "I'm hanging out the window, so you just push it, nephew." And I'm trying to push this thing in, and he hit the button. He's like,
My
"Rewind
mother,
it, rewind it."
right. My mother just said the 8-track was before the cassette. Thank you,
Yes,
Mom.
it was.
Yes.
It was.
Well, actually,
That's
no.
my
The vinyl was before the 8-track, before the cassette, before the
Yeah,
That's
but you couldn't
vinyl.
put no record
Before
player in your
blah,
Monte
blah, blah,
Carlo
blah.
if you was trying to cruise the boulevard.
Right. So this is the part where I want to know what we're going to plug each other's projects. Danny, what you got going?
Well, right now, I've with Corona, I've done a lot of going back to basics. So I've been educating myself on within, like, I've enrolled in classes at FIT for design, any master class that I can sign up for acting, for the industry. So right now, I've just been learning, waiting for everything to reopen up so I can go back and audition and hit that pavement hard.
Yeah, you're gonna hit it hard, sis, and you're gonna get that. I want to thank you. I love you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
call
I
you
appreciate
in a bit. I'm gonna text you. I'm gonna text you in a bit.
Preacher.
Jarreau, what you got going on?
Biggest thing coming up right now is, as I was saying, my virtual concert for DC Frey and Capitol Riverfront. That's going to be this coming Friday, next Friday, the 26th, from 7 to 8 p.m. So you can go on their Facebook page to view the concert live. So I'm very excited about that. Also working on some original music in the work. So as Don Mike mentioned in the beginning, I do have a new mailing list now. So if you go to my website, www.JerromeWilliams.com, my name is right there. You'll see a link to sign up to my email list, and I'm definitely giving out some free stuff, free music, but also like exclusive listens and things like that, because I want everybody to be a part of this experience with me. So that's the biggest thing coming up. And again, I appreciate you and everybody on this panel for allowing all of us to come together and talk this stuff out.
So Jarreau is also one of the co-producers on my album. So he is a talented individual. He's guided me through a lot of stuff. So I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming on to the show. Rikki, what you got going on? Tell the people what you got going on. You got something big happening.
I am having 2 conversations next week, one with actors, directors, anyone on the production side of theater. I'm having a conversation called the Theater Diversity Chat, just kind of getting everyone on the same page of what needs to happen. And then that's on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, I am doing a theater discussion chat with the theater boards and any of the foundation members, trying to help them actually write out action plans, because I went on a tear of ripping some new ones for people that had not written Black Lives Matter statements and or just diversity statements, but yet they will call me and say, hey, do you have anybody Black that can play this role? So yeah, I kind of went on a tear in the DMV community, but in tearing them a new one, I am also willing to help them formulate what that is. I'm not going to tear you one and just leave you there. I will help you. So I am doing that conversation on Wednesday to kind of help them figure out what does it look like to create a diverse community. And it's going to be different for different people, kind of giving them ideas like get out of your own way so that we will feel welcome and come do your shows. And please don't do Color Purple right now. That's just a no. So those are the things I'm doing.
That is so offensive.
I know why they're doing it.
No, thank you. No, thank you. For once, we don't want that. For once. We don't want that. Just like we really don't want to wear a mask while we go into a bank, but that's another story. Josh Cleveland, what you got? What you doing?
Man, this has been good. Mostly just the future Latido shows. I get to plug Latido here. But no, I mean, I do some of my own songwriting too. I'm working on a musical adaptation of The Great Gatsby that kind of scrambles some of the characters, looks at it from a little bit more from the female characters.
Make a black side.
Yep.
Queens, right? So.
Yep, exactly.
Gatsby is a black male.
We're considering it. We're considering
New York
it.
City.
Yep.
Oh, he drove a Cadillac, so yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Don't consider it. Make it happen.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah,
so,
it makes sense.
Anyway,
when they consider it, it's always on the table, and then it gets pushed off the table.
Right.
It doesn't come to fruition.
No pressure.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing.
No
Keep
pressure.
us up with that.
No pressure fell. It's only
no pressure.
Iconic
No pressure.
American novel.
Davyd, what you got going on?
Well, I'm updating my YouTube channel, Dance God One, which you can also see. And I showed you the piece, Anya.
Yeah, please tell the audience about that piece.
I created a piece. One of the semesters at my university, I had 3 Black males that one semester, and I created a piece called Justice or Just Us.
Ooh.
And I used the last 5 minutes of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. And I also used sound bites of, you know, Tamir Rice, Eric Gardner, and things like that. So I suggest you guys go look at it and give me some feedback of what you're doing, of what you think of it. I've been doing that. I also did a companion piece with 3 women, which has a little twist to it that I encourage you all go to look at it. Then everybody thought it was so popular, and one of the mothers of the dancers in the piece said, you know, there's a 3rd part to it where you put them together. So you have that. So I'm updating my YouTube channel. That's Dance God One on YouTube. I go check that out. I also have an upcoming podcast that will probably be up August 5th or 4th, around that area. A former student is wanting to talk about this very same thing. And so we're going to record that in the next couple of weeks. So you can look out for that. We're going to be talking about, she wants to focus on my issue with the dance and Dancing University and how I felt about that diversity in dance in the university. Because at the university, I was the only Black professor, male professor that they had in theater, film, dance, and arts management.
Thank you, David. Sean Briggs, what you got?
Working on 2 more books. I have 1 book that's free on iBooks, The Crimson Noirs, book of poetry. I'm also going to go, I'm going back to work, and I got to, I talked to my wife about how I think when I was a kid, my grandfather's hope is that someday I could, you know, we can live in peace. Well, for me now, it's knowing that somewhere down the line, maybe my nieces who are, you know, 2, 6, and 7 might live in peace. In the sense that, you know, I'm tired and I would love to put down, you know, that big stick where, you know, and I just want to walk softly. But this conversation has to keep going. If I don't stand up now, I know that they won't be able to stand up later. So that's my commitment. I'm going to go in looking to make a change where I'm at. I'm going to do, you know, to quote one of my favorite kind of half-ass presidents, do what you can with what you got right where you're at.
Yep. And I, your host, Anya Randall Nebel, will be launching her Brown Girl Loves Classics. I am currently on iTunes and Spotify. The Brown Girl Loves Classics sub will be I Can't Breathe Coalition. The I Can't Breathe Coalition is for us to do just what we're doing and talk the real talk about everything. Brown Girl Loves Classics came from the brainchild of me going back to Berklee School of Music and getting my degree in music production and engineering. And it was my love for classic rock. Yes, deep down inside, ladies and gentlemen, I am a white woman.
Nope, because we invented rock and roll.
Right, nope, and my love for rock and roll.
We invented rock and roll. Exactly. We invented it, so you can't get wiped down. It's too late.
So
that's us.
We invented it, so why not take it? That being said, but then, yeah, Little Richard. Say it, call it. But that's because Domino. Of that, because of the latest events that have gone on, and my daughter has been an advocate. My mom is an advocate, so I've been showing up at many places lately. From where she sits, my episode will air in the next couple of days. From where she sits, from a Black woman's perspective, me telling stories and my narrative of the things that have been on my back for the last couple of years that are now coming to fruition. I did go toe to toe with my neighborhood and sent them a formal letter about racism in my neighborhood. And it's like, what? There's racism in Chaffin Chase? But what that has done is basically brought out all the brown ladies in the neighborhood. And now we have a group that we're going to start taking over Chevy Chase piece by piece. But I want to thank,
Cole said,
so
they hate my neighbors, just they don't know me.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody that has showed up on this Friday night. I want to thank my home, where I'm the managing director of Latido. You can find us on all social platforms, Latido DC, Latido LA, soon to be Latido Pittsburgh. That's killing me being a Baltimore Ravens fan. Anyway, this is the first of many Zooms that we're going to have, because I'm going to twist Don Mike's arm and we're going to do this again with more dialogue and more structure. This was kind of free flowing. I get it. It was our first one, but now we're going to have a little structure. We're going to talk about topics. But it was a great time. I couldn't have thought of a better way to spend a Friday night with you guys. We raised over $370. Keep those donations coming in. We really appreciate them. They're going towards Black Lives Matter. Don't stop. Don't drop the baton. Don't stop the dialogue. We have a lot of work to do. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, and to my technical staff, Michael Santos Sandoval and Larry Gray and Barry Mendoza and his daddy, Don Mike Mendoza. Love you all. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.